So my point of this video is to convince you to read this book because I think you really should, especially if you're a girl who's following Christ. This is really dedicated to women, and it's just an amazing book to read. So the first thing about this woman that I love is it's pretty straightforward, but it's about learning not to care at all about what anyone thinks. Obviously, by the title, What Will They Think? You can tell it's about trying to give up the thought process of worrying about the opinions of others. But it's also more than that. It's about encouraging women to step into their calling. It's about encouraging women to step into their calling through Christ. And I think this is a crucial message to all the women in the kingdom of God, because we need to have women who are willing to step up, willing to take challenges, willing to do amazing things in the kingdom and not be discouraged. So I love this book because it talks to women using women as examples, women from the Bible. It shows how impactful women can be today, just as women were impactful back then in their own ways. One of the major themes of this book, What Will They Think?, is about finding boldness through Christ and how to live a Christ-centered life. It's not just for people who are anxious, but it's really for anybody who wants to live out a Christ-centered life and to be more bold in their faith. Some of the women of the Bible that this book talks about are the women we don't hear about too much, which is Tabitha and Deborah, and of course she talks about Esther. And it's 9 women who show 9 different qualities that can translate into qualities today. So I think this book is really good for anyone who's ever been shy, ever doubted their calling, ever doubted themselves, felt like an afterthought, or even doubted what God could do in their life. I think that everyone has felt that way at some point. But even so, this book is super empowering. It's super empowering. Even if you're not someone who's ever doubted anything about God, the book is still dedicated to strengthening your faith. It's filled with truths and encouragement, page after page of truth and encouragement. It's also filled with captivating ideas and stories. Grace Valentine, the author, is really set on building up women and encouraging women of Christ to rise up to their calling. It's really, really well written. It's relatable. And the best thing about it is that it's a super easy read. Like the way the paragraphs are written up, you just have to read a little bit at a time. For instance, here we go. She goes, one second. You can be startled, but be ready. Here we go. It goes, know your role. Pray for the crazy to happen. You see how it's just divided into chunks at some point. So all you have to read is a little bit at a time. And it's super impactful. It gets the point across. And it gives you something to meditate on for the rest of the day. Each part is its own piece of encouragement. It's just so rich. And truly, I can feel the Spirit of God breathe through this book. It's amazing. I truly believe that after reading this book, it made me a better person. And it helped me increase my faith, my desire to be bold, and really to get over my shyness in general. Through Christ, of course. So in the book, in the actual book, each chapter focuses on a different woman of the Bible. Just to, give a little preview. We learn from Esther, Deborah, Sarah, Tabitha, and a few more women who all show different qualities of the Bible. From Deborah, we learned about how she wasn't afraid to step up, to listen to God, even though it was scary, and put her faith in God. And the point of Deborah is at the end of this, she became a warrior for Christ, just as we can be warriors for Christ today. And of course, in the book, it elaborates much more about this on each woman. It translates over so well to us today. The author, Grace Valentine, makes it casual, makes it fun, makes it relatable. And like I mentioned earlier, each section of the book covers a different quality. And each woman of the Bible represents this quality of boldness. For instance, leading, speaking up, having a transformed life. But each quality that she focuses on starts with the question, what will they think? Because a lot of the times, the question, what will they think, hinders us from stepping into our calling, stepping into boldness, stepping into faith. So this book is really focused on overcoming the obstacle of letting other people's opinions come and grab us. And for someone like me who's had this experience of not doing something because I was worried about what other people would think, as many people have, had struggles with, this book really captures each insecurity, each point. It's incredible. A few examples is, I'm just going to go to the contents right here. I'm just going to go to the front of the book. Some of the examples are, what will they think if I've made mistakes? Or what will they think if my life is transformed? What will they think if I'm ordinary? What will they think if I obey God? And each of these, like, what will they think questions that are hindering us from our boldness has examples and studies and personal stories from the author and, mixed in with women from the Bible, how we can get over that obstacle to not be afraid of stepping into our calling and being our boldest, most faithful selves. Basically, the book really stresses on focusing on what God thinks of you and not caring at all about what anyone else thinks about you. At the end of the book, you realize that what God thinks is so much more important and is such a higher calling than what anyone else can think about you possibly. And I think that this book is kind of a guide as well as a reminder to be our boldest selves. It's definitely an encouragement, and that's why I love it. I love how detailed it is. It's filled with her personal stories. So it's not just like a Bible study book, and it's definitely not an autobiography at all, but it's just so relatable and fun. And the author, Grace Valentine, really doesn't make the biblical woman sound much different than me or you. She points out how they had similar struggles as I do today. And I really never thought of the women of the Bible having the exact same struggles as I do today, but they do. They face gossip, things like that girls face today. And it's just amazing how she points out how these biblical women faced challenges and overcame them in a similar way as I can today. And that is, of course, through Christ. But she walks the reader through it. And it's a very encouraging book. And there is a self-help book vibe to it. I actually really like that about it. It doesn't seem like, oh, I'm reading a Christian book or I'm reading a Bible study. It's carefully crafted to impact and to benefit and to encourage and to comfort, like a modern girl's life. Even though it has biblical principles and biblical roots, it's amazing to see how much God is really working through the author to retell and to interpret and to share from her personal life how much God has taken her out of her shyness and brought the author into boldness, just as God did to women in the Bible, took them out of their past lives and brought them into their new lives. And that's what this book is about. This book is about transforming a girl's life from someone who thinks that they're an afterthought or doubts God's potential or doubts their potential. But Grace Valentine reminds us that through Christ, all things are possible, and that women are never an afterthought to God. Reading this book definitely impacted me and encouraged me. I think that reading this book was an experience. I couldn't read it every day, but whenever I had a chance, I would just pick it up a little bit. And I always, with every piece of the book, I found something useful. Even if not all the struggles in the book I struggled with, even if not, I learned a lot reading this book. And of course, the author gives a lot of Bible verses to back up her points. It's not just her talking. It's definitely biblically based, but she gives good Bible verses that tie in so well with the story. At the end of the day, it's a strong reminder that women are not afterthoughts to God at all. It's a reminder not to doubt him, but to always rely on him and know that God can use women greatly as he has and as he will and as he is in my life. And I'm sure if you're a girl in your life, like, God is not finished. God wants to see you step into your full potential with him. He wants to see you step into your calling with boldness and with faith. And that's what this book is about. And I think this book definitely does its job. It definitely helped me be more bold. And I really like the cover art. I think it's very aesthetic. And I think the font's cute. But just a quick takeaway, I think this is an excellent book. If you've ever struggled with being bold, if you've ever struggled with caring about what other people think, the goal of Grace Valentine's writing, I believe one of the goals is to help rewire the reader's mind so that you never think, what will they think ever again? I don't want to give away too much, but I believe that this is a super encouraging book and it's a super easy read. There's so much good packed inside of it, and I think it's a spiritual investment. Another thing is that being in this time, I think a lot of people are really, it's really easy to kind of scroll on your phone and be on the media more than actually read a book. But I think personally, like reading a book before I go to sleep, I know it's healthier for the brain. It's healthier for like natural dopamine releases. So instead of scrolling on my phone for 15 minutes before I go to sleep, or literally like as I brush my teeth, I'll literally have the book open, because sometimes if you're just brushing your teeth, you're scrolling your phone. But I think it's a lot better. What I do is just, like 15, 20 minutes before I go to sleep, sometimes 5, I read a few pages of something like this, because I know that I'm going to go to sleep with good thoughts on my mind. And I think that's so important. But yeah, like I said, this book is definitely a spiritual investment. I found it on Amazon secondhand. I wasn't even looking for it. I was looking for self-help books, but this kind of just came up as a recommendation, and I thought, I was like, that looks cool. I'll give it a read. And it honestly changed my life. So just as I think that God put this book in my path, I hope that maybe I'm putting this book in your path. If you've ever struggled with boldness, or if you just want to read a self-help book dedicated to women, this is like a great, great, great book. So yeah, I really recommend it. That's all. See you in the next one.